How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to On the Ball. Welcome back to another review of the Premier League, where me and my brother go head to head in predicting Premier League outcomes. The scores on the doors are 57 to 54. It's 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result of the star man. Once you pick that man, yep, you guessed it, you can't pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist, and let's see how well or how bad we did this weekend. Starting off at Selhurst Park, it finished Liverpool 1, Crystal Palace 0. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 3-1 to Liverpool, so I get a point in this game. And yeah, I mean, Liverpool, I guess, did enough to win the game. I think they were heavily dominant throughout. Crystal Palace could hardly get a shot within the Liverpool box. But it was a bit of a dull affair, really.
Yeah, it wasn't a great game. I don't think Liverpool are at their best, but obviously they got the lead after 9 minutes. Nice goal from Diogo Jota. Palace, especially in the first half, offered absolutely nothing. And you would have thought, even in this game, you know, they would offer a bit more. I thought Eze was looking out of sorts. They couldn't get Nketiah involved in the game whatsoever. They did make a few changes in the second half of putting Nketiah on the right. Mateta came on, then Alisson as well, who did pick up an injury, but he had to make a few saves, didn't he? From I think one from Mateta. I can't remember who the other one was, but he had to make a few saves in that second half to keep Liverpool in the lead. Then Alisson gets injured. Eze did have a big opportunity to level it up, but he's hit it straight at the keeper. Can't remember his name there. They had a keeper who came on. I didn't know who he was.
Vitislav Jaros.
Who I remember the commentator.
I don't know where Kelleher was.
Yeah, he was ill.
Oh, I see.
And they said, the commentator said when Jaros came on, there's a lot of Googling happening right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. I think... So yeah, second half, Palace gave a good fist of it. Unfortunately, they couldn't get back in the game. Liverpool were good enough to hold on. But I think similar to the Wolves game, Liverpool probably just about deserving the victory, but I don't think were overly impressive. But they got the goal and they just held out. I think Palace will be disappointed how little they offered, especially in that first half. But a bit of a spirited response in the second half.
Because Liverpool did make a couple of changes going into it, didn't they? Luis Diaz was surprisingly excluded, and they put Gakpo out on the left, and they had Curtis Jones start the game as well, which I don't think he's had too many starts this season, or I could be wrong about that. But a few changes. But again, it was Ryan Gravenberch was the best player on the pitch once again. I mean, he's been so good this season, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I think their defence did, by and large, hold strong. But yeah, Gravenberch, a really strong performance again in the sixth. And Liverpool going to the second international break, top of the league with that win. So good win for them. But have you seen their run of fixtures?
Palace.
No. Liverpool.
No.
Look at their run of the next 10 games. This is really gonna see where they're at.
Chelsea at home, Leipzig away, Arsenal away, Brighton away in the Cup, Brighton at home in the league, Leverkusen at home in the Champions League, Villa at home, Southampton away, Real Madrid at home, Man City at home, Newcastle away, Everton away. Bloody hell.
Yeah, they've got, so now if they're still top after that run of games, then they're in a title race, I think it's fair to say.
100%. Spotting about that.
But Palace, still no wins.
See Palace's run of games.
I haven't seen Palace's run of games.
So Palace have got Forest away next, and Forest obviously in high-flying form at the moment. Then they play Tottenham, and then they play Wolves away, Fulham at home. So if they really can't get points on the board in these next 4 or 5 games, then he's in major trouble. Yeah,
no win in the first 7 games has got to be a big concern. Albeit obviously one battle of this one, but you know, I think last season they would have given this a better go. So I just feel like they're really struggling. I also feel like they're really struggling to fit in Nketiah and Mateta. I just don't like Nketiah off the right. I don't think it's good.
I think this was the first game he actually started in the 9, isn't it?
Yeah, but also you can't leave out Mateta. He's so physical. Like, if you're going to play that system, you need Mateta up front.
Particularly against Liverpool, where they have such physical centre backs.
Yeah, you need someone who can trouble them. So I think, as I've said, I just think a bit of a change of formation, get Mateta next to Nketiah. I think that's the way to go. But it also means changing up his formation a bit. So whether he's willing to do that, I'll have to wait and see.
We shall see. Next up, Arsenal against Southampton. It finished 3-1 to Arsenal. Still went for 4-0. I went for 4-1. By the end of it, it was, a convincing win for Arsenal, but they did go 1-0 down on the 55th minute. But, as I was watching it, I saw Arsenal go 1-0 down. No chance. I didn't even get excited for a split second that Arsenal were going to lose the game. I knew they were going to come straight back and win the game. And, they were level within 3 minutes with Kai Havertz scoring yet again this season. But look, it wasn't the greatest performance from Arsenal, but they were heavily dominant throughout. It was just a bit of a weird lineup from Arteta. I think he just knew Southampton are probably the worst team in the league at this current moment in time. He started Thomas Partey at right back. He started Raheem Sterling for his first start in an Arsenal shirt. Gabriel Jesus up front, and Sterling and Jesus were pretty poor, to be honest. And look, they won the game convincingly, but is it worrying that they're conceding so many goals at home? 2 against Leicester last weekend, 1 against Southampton this weekend, but they're getting the points on the board.
I think as long as they're getting the points, they won't be too concerned. But I think you've also got to look at the goals they've conceded. I mean, the Southampton goal was a bit of a worry, but the ones against Leicester, deflection and then a worldie from Justin, one exactly like they were carved open. But the Arsenal one, the game on the weekend, they were a bit lackluster in that first half for sure, and it was 0-0, and they didn't really have too many clear-cut openings that first half.
But did you ever think for 1 second that Arsenal were going to drop points in this game?
Of course not. And also once they concede, I think within a minute they were level. So
3 minutes, yeah.
So I think that tells the story of how quickly. I think if Southampton were able to hold on for a bit longer, maybe they could have nicked a result. But the fact they conceded within a few minutes. They were never going to see out that game. And you look at the goals they conceded, was pretty poor, to be honest. The last two were pretty poor from Saka and Martinelli. Martinelli, that volley the back post. Ramsdale should be doing better there, I think. And the last goal, more trouble playing out the back, and just gave it straight to Saka, who sealed it 3-1. So, look, it's a game that would have been a disaster if Arsenal wouldn't have won. They got the 3 points. But yeah, I guess it's a bit concerning that they've had a bit of trouble against Leicester and Southampton. But at the end of the day, they deserved the wins and they got the job done. So I don't think they'll be too worried about it.
Yeah, let's move on to the game of the weekend, which was Brentford against Wolves. 5-3 to Brentford on the day. Both us going for 1-1. And what a ding-dong battle this was. Bloody hell. Again, in the first couple of minutes, Brentford go in the lead. Didn't last long, though, because Matthias Cunha did level it up before the 5th minute mark. And it was just goal after goal after goal. I mean, I wasn't watching it, but every second my phone was just flashing up. Goal in Brentford, goal in Brentford, goal in Brentford. I think at half-time, what was it? 4-2 to Brentford at half-time.
Yeah.
And goal apiece in the second half. And Ryan Nouri, I love this guy. I think he's such a good player, and he deserves to be better than bottom of the league right now. But he got a goal and assist on the day. But I guess Brentford's firepower was just a bit too much for them.
Yeah, I think it was a case of Brentford pummeling Wolves into submission, yet Wolves were just very clinical with the chances they had. And unbelievably, Brentford yet again, this time it was a bit of a late one, only the 2nd minute, not the 1st minute. They took
don't know why
the
they
lead.
left it so long.
Yeah, unbelievable. But how they keep doing this right at the beginning of games is absolutely incredible. And to do it 4 games in a row now, to score so early, is an incredible feat. And they did it again. But Wolves...
But I guess the difference between then and now, every other game they've dropped points. They actually got the win on the board this time.
Has to be very concerning for Wolves, considering they pride themselves on being quite a strong team defensively. And 5 goals in this game, 6 goals against Chelsea the other week at the beginning of the season. There's raining goals against Wolves at the moment, and 21 goals conceded in the first 7 games, by far and away the worst defensive side in the league at the moment. Only 1 point from the first 7 games as well. And when you're going away at Brentford and shipping that many goals, like Brentford are a good team, don't get me wrong, and they did very well. They've done quite well this season to be at Brentford. They are playing well. But you should not be conceding 5 goals to Brentford side, who pretty much only have Mbeumo as their first choice strike force fit. No Wissa. Obviously, they've sold Tony as well. How you're conceding 5 goals. And not only that, the 8 big chances, Wolves only created 1 big chance, which obviously ended up with 3 goals. But how they're conceding that level of chances is a massive concern. When you're a team like Wolves, where if you're going to stay in the Premier League, it's going to be because you've got a tight defence, not because you've got good players going forward. And I mean, apparently Gary O'Neill's been given the the dreaded vote of confidence. But if you're playing like that, he's going to have some serious turnaround if he's going to keep his job, because you can't be conceding this level of goals and keep the job.
24 goals in 9 games in all competitions they've conceded.
Yeah, it's not good enough.
And their next 2 games, Man City at home and Brighton away. teams that can score goals for fun.
Yeah, how are you getting battered by like that against a team like Brentford is very concerning. But fair play to Brentford, good win. And apart from, obviously they lost to us, lost to Liverpool and City, but apart from that, playing pretty well at the moment.
Yeah, level points with Tottenham and Nottingham Forest, who had a really good start to the season. 0 goal difference for Brentford, but I think it's been a really good start to the season. I know they've lost games, but the games that they've lost, you kind of expect them to lose, don't you?
Yeah.
Let's move on. Next up is Leicester against Bournemouth. We had a bit of a shock this weekend at the King Power. Leicester won the game by 1-0. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 2-1 to Bournemouth. And it was a goal by Buonanotte in the 15th minute. And Bournemouth, they were huffing and puffing all that second half, but they just couldn't blow the house down. But I've been really impressed with Buonanotte this season. I think he's been leading the charge for Leicester, and the majority of games that he's played, he's got goal contributions in a goal or an assist, and he's been by far Leicester's best player this season. And is he on loan only from Brighton?
From Brighton.
But he looks like a real player.
Yeah, I thought in his small spells off the bench of Brighton, he did quite well. Didn't start that many games, but when he did start, he looks bright. But obviously, now he's on loan at Leicester. He's doing really good, and a great goal he scored as well. Cut inside, he dragged the ball quite a long way, then cut inside and fired it into the roof of the net. Quality finish. And I think Bournemouth paid the price for a lacklustre first half. They gave Leicester the advantage, and as much as they dominated and they had they created 5 big chances in that second half and just couldn't. 4 big chances in that second half and just couldn't bury it.
Missing Dom Solanke.
Yeah, probably. Leicester offered nothing in that second half, only one shot, 0.03 XG, so they were really under the cosh. But luckily for them, they came up against a Bournemouth side who didn't have their shooting boots on, and they just couldn't finish. I think Bournemouth will be frustrated. I don't think it will be a performance which will send alarm bells ring, because they probably will feel like they created enough to get something out the game, but they'll be very frustrated that they're losing that kind of game. But Leicester, vital win. Is that their first win of the season?
Yeah, first win.
Is that the first promoted side to win this season? So it's taken a while, but they finally have a win on the board, and they'll be delighted with that. But they have to build on it, because they'll be happy. But at the end of the day, second half they could have easily dropped points. It wasn't exactly like a convincing win, so they'll have to build on that and make sure that they can build on that result, not just let it be a one-off.
Next up, Man City against Fulham. It's finished 3-2 to Man City. Both of us going for 3-1, and it looked like we were getting 5 points a reach up until the last few minutes. Rodrigo Muniz opens his account for the season, getting Fulham back in the game, but it wasn't enough. And I mean, Fulham were really good in this game, really good. The amount of times they broke Man City's lines, went one-on-one and just couldn't finish their dinner. How many chances did Adama Traore miss in this game?
He should have had a hat-trick.
Seriously, this guy, he just should have put at least one of those away, but he didn't put any of them away. And Man City, with the quality that they do have, they can always break you down and hurt you. But I thought Fulham definitely deserved more out of this game.
Yeah, and I think they will be absolutely gutted. First of all, assist of the season, I think we've already seen in the league, because Raul Jimenez, what an assist. One of the best assists I've ever seen. A back heel volley when he's not even facing the play.
Who to Pereira.
Unbelievable. Yeah. One of the best assists I've ever seen. One of the best assists I think you're ever likely to see in the Premier League. It was absolutely astonishing how he was able to pull the rabbit out of the hat with that one. And as I've said, I think he's been improving this season, and he's showing signs of getting back to his best. And there was that bit of ingenuity that was needed to break the deadlock here for Fulham. But unfortunately, they didn't hold out. Of all people, Mateo Kovacic getting a brace. The second goal, beautiful piece of play from the edge of the box and just putting it into the corner. That's his third goal of the season?
Third goals, yeah. He scored on the opening day.
So maybe he's starting to add those goals to his game. I mean, I don't think it'll be regular, but he has got 3 goals this season, so fair play to him. But they really didn't deserve to be 2-1 down for them. They were creating chance after chance on the breakaway. Adama Traore was causing all sorts of havoc, but then it's this classic Adama Traore. He can get past 2-3 players, but he doesn't finish the chances, and that's always been his problem. It actually beat Kyle Walker in a foot race, made Kyle Walker look like one of the slowest players in the league with that run he had in the second half. But honestly, his finishing was the difference between Man City winning and Fulham getting a result here, because it says here Fulham 5 big chances on the day, 2.6 XG compared to 1.57 for Man City, and it did take a late Doku goal to make sure they sealed the win. Brilliant
really
finish from
goal,
him,
yeah.
roof of the net. because Muniz did get a late goal, and there was a late scare for Man City. They got the job done, but yeah, they haven't looked fantastic, have they, since Rodri's gone? Or was this their second game?
It's not really since Rodri, because Rodri weren't playing like for the first few games of the season where they looked really good. I mean, he came back in that Arsenal game. That was his first game of the season, wasn't it, Rodri?
Was that his first game?
Because he played in the Champions League the week before, and then. But ever since that Arsenal game, they haven't looked the same. They have not looked the same whatsoever, and they were in flying form, and Rodri weren't playing for the majority of those games. Maybe he played one game in that run. And then since the Arsenal game, they've drawn with Newcastle. Look, anyone can draw with Newcastle away, but I think it was more their performance level. And then again, performance level at home to Fulham, where Fulham definitely deserve more out of the game. So it's definitely cause for concern for Man City at the moment.
Then again, this does happen every year.
It's true.
Every year they kind of find their feet, and then they just blow everyone away in the second half.
Yeah,
so
but the difference the difference was that at the beginning of the season they just started like it was second half City from the start, and then like since that Arsenal game, something seems to have rocked them.
Rodri,
but the Rodri wasn't playing beforehand.
Yeah, but without him, no, but it's psychologically it's a bit weird knowing you've got him to come. Maybe there's an air of calmness, but knowing he's actually going to be out for the whole season,
maybe
then I think psychologically it's a different aspect. But yeah, look, they did get the win though, and as with the quality player they have, knowing that they're always capable of that. But yeah, just wasn't convincing. Fulham will be absolutely frustrated. But fair play to Fulham, because they were, before this game, they're unbeaten in 6 and gave Man City a really good go. So they're having a good season at the moment.
Yeah, but Man City, next 2 games, who do they have? They have Southampton at home, Bournemouth away, and then they've got tough fixtures coming. They got to go away to Brighton. They got at home to Tottenham, and then away to Liverpool. So 3 hard games coming. So
I think Arsenal as well have some tough games coming. After they've just had Leicester and Southampton, I think they've got like Newcastle, Chelsea, and Liverpool in a row, I think, is it? So it will be interesting to see who comes up and Liverpool got some tough fixtures, so it'll be interesting to see who's going to be on top after those little run.
Bloody Spurs. Let's move on to West Ham at the London Stadium, as West Ham had a battering of Ipswich. It finished by 4-1. Both us going for 2-1 to West Ham. And Ipswich's run of undefeated in 4 games comes down to a crashing end at the London Stadium. So 4 draws in a row, and then West Ham absolutely wiped the floor with them. Liam Delap scored in really early, didn't he?
No, it was Antonio.
Antonio scored
and they equalised.
That was actually West Ham's quickest goal ever in the Premier League. 45 seconds or something, was it? Antonio getting a goal, and if you're going by FPL, 3 assists as well. It's unbelievable.
But it was literally a blitz from West Ham, because it was a bit of a struggle from West Ham to really assert themselves in the game. And then they scored just on the stroke of half-time, and then scored 2 goals right at the beginning of the second half. So, and after that, it was pretty much done. So if you're Ipswich, they've just been blitzed essentially either side of half time, and then the game was over. But that can happen, especially, I don't know if you saw the 4th goal they scored. Like, long ball comes towards Muric, and he just takes an awful touch, gives the ball away, and West Ham punished them. Ipswich definitely. Ipswich really struggled to deal with West Ham's physicality, I think, was the main thing here, and Antonio bullied them. And he hasn't been great so far this season, Antonio, but in this game he just seemed they just seemed to bully. He couldn't handle his physicality.
I thought West Ham were well worth the 3 points. I mean, they had 9 big chances in the game. They had the goalkeeper made 8 saves during the game as well. So West Ham back on song just in time to face Tottenham in a couple of weeks. But Ipswich still searching for that win.
Yeah. So it goes from unbeaten in 4 to winless in 5.
Exactly. That's what we were saying last week, how the narratives can spin so quickly.
Yeah, and they'll be frustrated because they were in the game. They got their back level, then 3 goals in 2 minutes either side of half time, and the game's gone. So Kieran McKenna will be really frustrated how that game got away from them.
Yeah. Let's move on to Everton against Newcastle and finish 0-0 at Goodison. Good point for Everton, not so much of a good point for Newcastle. Sim went for 2-1. I went for 1-1, so I get a point on the board for this one. But I guess this game just all kind of stemmed on that penalty. Anthony Gordon steps up against his old club. He had a bit of a bit of a moment with Pickford just before the penalty gets taken. Pickford dives the right way. It was a poor penalty, to be fair. And he misses at his old stomping ground, which was much to the delight of the Everton fans who were giving him a hard time throughout.
Yeah, great moment for Pickford, not a great moment for Gordon, but it was a really drab affair, to be honest. They got that penalty, but didn't really look like they were either side was ever going to score, to be honest. I think Newcastle just looked a bit toothless about Isaac. Obviously, Gordon playing up front. Yes, in transition he can be effective, but we've seen it like when Son plays up front for Spurs, like in these kind of games when you've got physical players like playing in like low blocks and stuff, it's difficult for them to get in the game, and it wasn't going to be Gordon's best game, and it wasn't, unfortunately, playing up front. Without Isaac, they struggled. Everton just offered very little. They were very solid defensively, but apart from set pieces, they really offered very little threat. And a draw and a 0-0 was probably a fair result all round. Probably Everton will be happier considering Newcastle missed a penalty, so they'll be happy with the result, but keeps them only on 1 win in the first 7 games, but at least they're outside the relegation zone.
Next up is Aston Villa against Manchester United, which also finished 0-0. Sim went for 3-2, I went for 3-1, both in the favour of Aston Villa. And this was also a bit of a drab affair, to be honest. I mean, Villa playing like they just had a big European night midweek, as they did with 1-0 against Bayern Munich, and the players didn't seem that up for it. The fans didn't seem that up for it. And when you're at home to Man United, you expected Villa Park to be like a big atmosphere, but they all seemed a bit too hungover still from the midweek actions. Man United, desperate for a win, desperate for results, again, didn't really do much. Apart from that Rashford chance in the first few minutes, what else did they do throughout the game?
I think Bruno hit the bar from a free kick, but very little. It was just really like, it looked like both teams like came out and just like 0-0, should we just take 0-0? And then was like, yeah, go on. Yeah. And like they just played out a really dry, I think it was the lowest XG for a game like for the past like 3 seasons or something. Like really little goal mouth action. I think Ten Hag maybe went into this game thinking, you know what, a draw will do us. Just keep me in a job for a few more weeks at least. Get a clean sheet. It's a weird one. Look, after the Spurs game, everyone was saying big pressure on these next 2 games. They end up getting a draw from being 2-0 up against Porto and then a 0-0 draw away at Villa. So is that enough to keep him in a job for now? Or is he still on the brink?
Yeah, you look at it, it's like you're 2-0 up. You go 3-2 down, you get a man sent off, and then you get back to 3-3. So there's like a spirited end to the game, but obviously a bad way to get to that situation. 0-0 away at Villa. I mean, I think Man U should have been smelling blood a little bit with the way Villa came out, because Villa probably put in their poorest display of the season so far.
Yeah, I think both teams just looked sapped. I think obviously Man United were away from home in midweek as well, away at Porto, got a 3-3 draw with 10 men. He also made changes, Maguire and Evans coming in.
It's a strange one. Obviously Everton gets man of the match and he put in a good display, but when everyone's going, this is the game to save your job, and you play Evans and Maguire at centre-back. It just was a weird situation.
Solidity, that's what he was thinking. Yeah, putting 35-year-old Johnny Evans in there. But look, he got man of the match, so you can't really complain defensively. But going forward, they just offered nothing. They just never really... They had a couple of transitions, but other than that, like, really little... I mean, this is Man United, and we're talking about, it's a good... Like, he's talking about after the game, it's a good result. We kept it's our 4th clean sheet of the season or something. It's like... You can't look at that game and think you played well, surely, even though it's a decent result on paper away at Villa. Like, those are standards now. Not getting battered away at Villa now is like the standard.
Ten Hag just tries to spin the narrative after every game. His post-match press conferences and post-match interviews are so hard to watch at times. He's just like... I'm so happy Spurs didn't go for him, man. I wanted him at the time when Poch got sacked, but... I mean, the guy just seems clueless at times. He really does.
It's going to be a long international break for Ten Hag, I feel, but we'll see if he remains. I just got a feeling they're not going to sack him just yet. I think maybe those results kind of saved him in a way, even though they shouldn't really have. But I really think much has changed as of last week when they lost to Spurs. But I just feel like because they didn't lose either game, maybe they just won't sack him, but maybe he's still just 1 defeat away from the sack.
The reality is, if you're just waiting for that defeat to come to sack him, you may as well just sack him.
I agree, they should, but I just got a feeling they won't until he gets another defeat. Who have they got next?
But it was a bit ominous, though. It was a bit ominous because the whole of the hierarchy were there to watch that game,
and they're having a meeting today.
And when that happens, usually there's a change about to come. So I actually think they will sack him during this international break.
Well, the next game, Brentford at home, then Mourinho's Fenerbahce away, then West Ham away, Leicester at home. So they do have a potential to go on a bit of a run, potentially in the next few games. So I guess it's there was a hierarchy decision if they're going to sack him or not. But I think if they do, it'll just be Ruud van Nistelrooy, who did seem to be having a little argument with Ten Hag on the touchline.
Did he?
Yeah, you could see there's a video going around where they're in a bit of a debate about something. So maybe Ruud's pushing back on something. But yeah, we'll see what happens. As I say, I think it'll be a long international break for Ten Hag. We'll see if
Well, it won't be a long international break if there's a conclusion to this meeting today, you say.
Yeah, we'll see.
Let's go to Chelsea against Nottingham Forest. We finished 1-1, which carries on Nottingham Forest's impressive start to the season.
Unbeaten away from home.
Yeah, incredible, to be honest, with what Nuno's doing at Nottingham Forest this season.
What is Nuno cooking at Forest? He was the laughing stock of the Premier League with Spurs. But people forget, at Wolves, he did a great job. He actually got them into Europe and to a Europa League quarter-final, I think.
Yeah.
It's a fair play. Like, he's doing a great job at Forest at the moment.
Yeah, he is doing a great job, but I do think Chelsea should have won this game. They had enough chances to win the game. Noni Madueke levels it up on about the hour mark just after Chris Wood put Nottingham Forest ahead, but they had copious amounts of chances this game, Chelsea, and they should have won.
Forest had more big chances than
fair.
Chelsea. And also, I don't know if you watched the highlights, but Liverpool, Forest went down to 10 men, and they created about 2 amazing chances. Sanchez had to make 2 unbelievable saves.
True.
While Forest had 10 men.
It's true, but I felt like, look, it's true. Chelsea did create the chances. They had 3 big chances in the game. They had about 2.5 XG throughout the game as well. At home, you expect them to put away at least one of those.
And they only, Madueke obviously equalised after Wood put them ahead. Palmer still had a great game, despite the fact that he only had 1 assist. I mean, I say only 1 assist, but he only got an assist, 6 key passes on the day. So he still was creative as ever. But I did feel like Chelsea struggled to break him down, to be honest. I think Forest were really resolute, and Forest, it says here, they had more big chances. They could have taken all 3 points when it went down to 10 men. So I think as well that first half seems like Chelsea were really lackluster. They just didn't really come out firing, and they allowed Forest to settle into that game. But to be fair, look, Forest kept a clean sheet away at Liverpool, won the game 1-0. They've now gone away at Chelsea, got a good 1-1 draw. So they're proving to be very stubborn opposition and not easy to play against. And fair play, really good point for them. But did you see Ward-Prowse's red card? One of the funniest red cards you're ever going to see. So he miscontrols the ball on the halfway line. And Jackson tackles him. He's about to go, like, running through on goal. And Ward-Prowse is, like, running back. He slips and just hugs the ball. And just, like, on a yellow card. He's on a yellow card.
Why would he do that?
Because he stops a counter. And he starts walking off. And because he knows he's about to get sent off, the referee just calls him over. He looks and just sends him off. And he starts walking off again. So, not being the best start to life for Ward-Prowse, I feel like, at Forest at the moment.
Yeah, but
I mean, great for
results have been great. I mean, I say results have been great. It's still 1 win in their last, 5 games now. Results are starting to turn a little bit.
Oh, they've had some tough games. But that 1 win was away at Liverpool, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they draw with Wolves, which they should be getting 3 points looking at both teams this season. They drew away at Brighton, which was a good point for them. Losing at home to Fulham, maybe they expected a bit more from that game. And a draw away at Chelsea, which is a good point for them. So a bit of a mixed bag.
Yeah, I think they're doing right. I think better than they would have expected, that's for sure.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of people tipped them to go down this season.
Nuno's
doing long way to go still. Brighton against Tottenham, we're going to finish 3-2. I went 3-2, so I get a 5-pointer, right?
No.
Oh, that's a shame.
Unfortunately, it's the wrong way around.
I went 3-2 to Spurs. Sim went 3-1 to Spurs. And it looked like at the end of the first half, Spurs, I mean, any betting man would not have bet against Spurs at half-time there because Spurs were rampant. We were creating chances, put 2 away, albeit one of them maybe a bit fortuitous because I think the keeper definitely made a meal out of that and should have saved it for Maddison's goal. But nevertheless, Spurs were good value for that 2-goal lead, in my opinion. And what happened in that second half is anyone's guess. Just so complacent, Spurs.
It's the classic Tottenham collapse, which we've seen so many times. Just inexplicable, unexplainable, yet seems to constantly happen with Tottenham, and exactly what happened against Brighton. Riding high, playing some lovely football. And maybe Hertzler just went in half-time and said, lads, it's Tottenham. And maybe that's what happened, because they came out, bullied us. They were the ones in the ascendancy. We just couldn't stem the tide. And Spurs just... there's no better way of saying they Spursed up. They snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, like we've seen so many times before. Within 20 minutes that second half, Spurs were 3-2 down, and after what was been such a great, response to the North London derby, winning 5 in a row and 2-0 up at half time, going to the international break on a massive downer after that second half, and Tottenham are going to have to pick ourselves up after international break. They're going to have 2 weeks to think about that result. Really disappointing. Still, I feel like the football they're playing and the way they are set up, they're going in the right direction, but really, really concerning second half because they just got completely bullied and they weren't doing the fundamentals, as what Ange said. And horrible, horrible. From Brighton's point of view, a great turnaround from them after being 2-0 down. They were being opened up and they were really struggling, but they got their first win since the second game of the season after a really great turnaround, and they showed they're not to be trifled with if you allow them to play their football.
Yeah, they've got a really good set of attacking players there. You look at Minte, you look at Rutter, you look at Danny Welbeck, who scored 3 or 4 goals this season. He's on firing form. So you got to give credit to Hertzler and you got to give credit to Brighton for keep pulling out these performances.
The next 5 games, so Newcastle away, then Wolves, then Liverpool twice, and then Man City. So some really tough games coming up.
They'll get points over that period, no doubt about it. They're a really good side. Let's move on to the star men. Sim went for Jared Bowen, who got a goal and an assist, so he gets 7 points there. And I went for Brennan Johnson, who got a goal on the day at the Amex. So we finish off on the same margin as we started with, 67 to 64, both of us getting 10 points on the board this week. A little bit of break now, international break. We'll be back in a couple of weeks or just under for the next round of Predict the Prem. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.